When it comes to the Dylan Rounds case and community, to sum it up in a nutshell, it's a bunch of hypocritical, two-faced individuals that have switched and changed over time, who care about the case or care about the family and those of missing loved ones, all the whilst, or at some point in time, they support or look up or enable a channel that does cause disruption to the case or cause a headache towards those within trying to solve it. Today, my name is Warlight Ref, and it has been like that for quite some time now. One thing that has also remained consistent is the behavior of people with time and, you know, the nature of history repeating itself. The theme of today, to do with the Dylan Rounds case, of course, is based on bad role models, bad influences of people out there who have participated in the Dylan Rounds case, right? It's to acknowledge that there are a range of people out there, whether they are actively or part-time participating in the Dylan Rounds case, or maybe they've moved on elsewhere. They're all about caring and sharing and maybe even advocates for missing loved ones, whatever. But it's a load of BS because I've seen the before and after changes of humans within the casing community, and I do find it a little bit ridiculous. I will explain why this video is being done, like now, why, because I want people to understand exactly, okay? Welcome to those that are currently here in this live premiere. Be sure to share your thoughts, opinions, reactions in the live chat box on the right hand side of the screen. If you want to leave any comments down below or questions, or you want to get anything off your chest, you want to expand on anything, or maybe you may have grievances with somebody, or maybe me, whatever it might be, leave your comments down below and I can always look at them, respond to them at a later point, okay? So feel free to expand on what you're saying in the chat if there's not enough space, or you just want to, you come up with a thought, an idea later on after this video, leave your comments down below. It does help the video in general and the discussions on the Dylan Rounds case, okay? If you simply want to catch up on my last video that I did, top right corner of the screen, click on that eye symbol, you'll be redirected over there, okay? So, now is a great time, a perfect time to do a video about this. In my mind, at least, it's good timing, right? And when I say it's good timing, that means it's under control and things have been revised and changed with time. Adaptation has taken place. As a heads up to people who may not quite know, in the past, and up to a point in time, maybe recent, on and off since, but I've responded back to if I've been attacked, if I've been called out, false accusations, etc., etc. I've directly responded back in a formal way. And whilst that is necessary and practical, and it does work and it has been proven, what I've refined with time now, if you didn't know, when something bad happens, such as to me, and it just so happens to tie in with a case like Dylan Rounds, instead of just a simple direct response video, whether it be in a negative or positive way, now I'm actually incorporating it and shifting the energy into an actual theme or topic which is valid, universally speaking, in multiple cases, communities, and beyond me, right? So instead of it all about being me and my response nowadays, and it has been proven in the past because you've seen those topic videos and discussions that I've done, well, that's happening today, right? So whilst it can be on the theme or the subheading of drama, conflict, claims and changes in people, the hypocrisy of people, the two-faced nature of humans out there in the Dylan Rounds community, there is an overall more important, bigger theme and topic, which is kind of like the umbrella term, bad influences, bad role models, whether that be of their recent or past actions and behavior, okay? I'm taking into consideration where people may have got in trouble in the past, where they may have a criminal record, where they may have mugshots, right? I'm specifically going to be highlighting that as an example in relation to the people that have done bad recently or back in the past. They haven't learned since, and there's a lack of an understanding, right? I'll say it now, just in case I don't mention it later on. The way I see things, such as with the Dylan Rounds case and community, it has attracted a certain audience with time. True crime in general seems to attract ex-criminals. As ridiculous as that sounds, that's what's happened, right? When it comes to the Dylan Rounds case, it's no different, okay? People, you search some names up, or as others have demonstrated it themselves with their little fixations, mugshot here of this person, mugshot there of that individual, familiar faces which you will know of as well. Yes, it is back and forth and people go at one another, but what I'm saying is, it's kind of like a ridiculous nature that you've got a true crime case which involves a serious crime, and the people that come on in, join in to try and solve it, are ex-criminals. It just sounds really hard to believe, but that's what it is. And that's the true crime community in a nutshell. So whilst you do have ex-criminals, ex-people with mugshots and trouble with the police and other people in general in life, whilst it may be their past, for some, it still drags on to them in the shadows. And that's why they don't change as a person, they don't improve, and history repeats itself with their certain behavioural traits or characteristics. We've seen it like with salty pancakes. We've seen it like with a few others, okay? It is what it is. Valid observations have been made. But this is the thing, not to go too hard in on somebody's past, right? Because I know there'll be people out there right now that will say to me, yeah, but look, people have made mistakes over time, especially those that have been on this earth longer than me. More time to make mistakes, more times for things to go wrong. It's how you adapt and improve as a person past that point, right? A person's past mistakes or trouble shouldn't define them as who they are for the rest of their life. Maybe with some exceptions, depending on how serious a crime was, right? But you do need to understand one thing, and it's very important because I've been on the receiving end of it, okay? At the end of the day, if you have experienced something and then you see others down the line in the same way, you should have a better understanding and be more understanding of others maybe going through the same thing or in the process, right? Now, in terms of my coverage of the Dylan Rounds case and what I've done on it, right, with the consistency, the frequency, not everybody agrees with it. Not everybody seems to approve of it. Now, that can be their opinions, and like I said, just ignore it. Just do what you're doing. And to be honest, that's what I have been doing. And at times, I've juggled as well. I can do both at the same time, I can. But, as said, when I'm directly called out, I will respond because it's what I have done, and why should that change? It's worked then, it should work now. But by refining it and pinpointing it to the source, the origins of an overall theme, bad role models, bad influences, awareness needs to be spread on that. Because if you've got bad people covering a bad case, does that quite go well together? I don't think it does. If people were so passionate to expose Doug, no thanks, for his behaviour and involvement in the Dylan Rounds case early on, disrespecting Dylan's name supposedly, and then later working alongside Candice Cooley like nothing went wrong, nothing bad happened, people were up in arms over that. So if people are going to go to that level of passion or whatever, then why can't the same apply to the others, right? Because there'll be some people that'll be biting their teeth, okay, latching their jaws onto somebody else out there to try and expose them, but they themselves can be exposed too. And that's why you see the theme of going back and forth, right? Today, I just want to do a general theme and topic of how true crime cases, besides the typical toxicity, the typical drama and conflict, we've looked at that. That doesn't need to be covered again at this moment in time. But what can be covered is the grey areas which haven't been really mentioned. Never mentioned on my channel, right? It just so happens to pair with, in recent time, my return to the Dylan Rounds case from outsiders, an unwelcoming presence. It is what it is, to be expected. I predicted it. I saw it a day or two ago, which some of you will be aware of now, and others out there, well, we don't need to get into too much detail because it will only escalate further, okay? But I just wanted to explain it to you how one thing can piece with another. If it's not quite clear enough already, I'll try and explain it clearer, okay? I've returned back to the Dylan Rounds case and my coverage on it. There are genuine points to talk about, new perspectives. I've said things now which I've never said before. It's important, it's interesting, and people that watch my videos, although smaller in numbers when covering this case, the level of focus and understanding is there, okay? The complete contrast to what we're talking about today would be good role models. And I'm only going to mention one person as an example because if it went on, it would drag on. And I'm just basing this off the level of interaction, whether it be the support on the channel, the support on the case, and one of the main most important factors, the level of understanding a case and understanding a person working on the case or alongside it, an insider or an outsider, right? I may not interact with everyone to the same extent, okay? And I'm basing this as an overall. Who have I seen overall, which is a perfect example of how a human, an adult human should be, how they should behave or how they could behave, which benefits or, you know, what do you call the word? I can't remember the word. Complements a case, complements people on it, right? Good example, a perfect example of a human would be Skeptical on this channel. Skeptical, of course, has been supportive in different ways, which is obviously good and appreciated, but has been supportive in providing information and research and backstories behind stuff, and as well as confirming things and confirming points and answering questions quickly as well. Very helpful, very useful and important. That's a good example there of an individual which Skeptical demonstrates. And as I said, there are other people on my channel that do that too, but this is just one example, okay? Because it will take too long to cover everyone. But besides that, Skeptical has also shown a level of understanding and patience on me. If I've covered something or there's a bit of confusion or I'm not quite sure on a point, Skeptical doesn't retaliate in a negative way or call you out. No, she just simply says, well, actually, this is what's happened. Just simply explains it without any trouble. A range of people out there on this case and further afar, how they may have responded was with more aggression and a bit more abrupt and a little bit more erratic with a sharp tone, especially in the Idaho 4 community too, right? People like that. Okay, you might know more or you might have an answer to something. Don't mean to say you have to respond back in a nasty way just because someone doesn't know or someone's confused, right? A lot of people make that mistake, but Skeptical doesn't. Skeptical responds back in a neutral or positive way, exactly how it should be. So besides being supportive, besides providing valid information and responses and acknowledgements and just answering questions, all very helpful. It's just Skeptical as well, the patience behind it too. So maybe I could mention some more points maybe later, but I just wanted to say, as like a measuring tool, if that's even possible, maybe it's not. But whilst today we can talk about bad role models, bad humans, and how the two-faced hypocrites, whether it be in response to me or acting how they do in the Dylan Rounds case, Skeptical is a good role model, okay? A good role model in life. I'm speaking specifically in the true crime and YouTube area. And I say that because I only know so much about a person being honest, right? Skeptical is a good example of a person within a community, how they behave, how they act, and how they respond. Mostly, if not all, positive, a good person, okay? And there'll be some others out there too in my channel, but there's not enough time to mention it all, okay? But what about the people, though, who are maybe bad role models or bad behaviour, okay, how they act? You know, there's a difference between someone being outright dark and negative and disruptive, and then someone that's a bit of both, and they change depending on the mood they're in and at what point or time, okay? That's where it becomes a bit of a problem, a bit two-faced, right? But to revert back to my personal experiences from my personal observations, I've seen some particular familiar individuals with time, audience members and creators out there, in which some, if not most, have appeared on my channel comment section, live chat at some point or another, okay? Whether they're directly listening to my videos or not, or just simply chatting at the time, it's happened, okay? And some of those people with time have also attempted, you could say, to cause me problems or trouble, but we're still here and still making videos, okay? So, apologies if the flow isn't as perfect as it normally is, or it's just because this time round, there's really no need to rush. There's no need to snap. There's no need to respond instantaneously, in case you're wondering, right? There is an important theme and topic point here, and that's what I'm referring to, and how I can apply it to certain individuals is valid as well. So, in short, in summary, I've returned back to the Dylan Rounds case. Others out there aren't too pleased with me returning back. They speak behind my back, ridicule me, insult me, etc., due to how I've covered the case and the lack of it, okay? Obviously, you can argue invalid points and impetuous, but that's the same old observations. Those people don't change, do they? So they demonstrate those same weaknesses within them as people. But the theme what I want to put across today is some of those people, the way they've acted and the way they've responded back to me or referred to me, they're not exactly clean themselves, okay? They may have a past. They may have troubles in life, ongoing or in the past. It's happened. And what I'm putting across right here, right now, is especially those with maybe a criminal record or a past history with getting in trouble or something, who then surround themselves in a case all about trying to care and support a family or find Dylan or spread awareness on Dylan. Are they really in a position to be talking? Especially and specifically those that then attack others, such as me. You're in no position to be talking or critiquing when you yourself have made many mistakes, if not significantly worse than others, right? As I said, I don't want to generalize too much because there might be a misunderstanding if that was done. See, this is the thing. I'm not aware the total population or the total average number of people in the US that have a criminal history or have gotten in trouble with the police at one point in life or had a mugshot as well. I'm not going to be fully aware of that. But what I would say is people that have got in trouble, such as that stuff with the law and breaking laws and causing trouble, and even if it didn't lead directly to the authorities, causing trouble in the background for others, and it's quite of a serious nature. People like that then start critiquing others, that's the key factor. You've done bad, and then you have the cheek to call out others. You're in no position, you need to simmer down. That's my perception of things. Because what should be the case, and it's not always, the people that have done wrong or done bad should have adapted and become a better person with time, should. And what they should have also done is developed a better understanding. So those that have experience from the past and may have done wrong themselves, they should have become a more understanding person than others out there who may have not done anything wrong in the first place, right? You've been there, you've done it. You should show more of an understanding towards others. but there are a range of people in the Dylan Rounds case community and true crime streets, YouTube streets, that haven't shown that understanding. They're one-dimensional, they're egocentric, they're impetuous. History will repeat itself on them and their behaviours. Volatility, toxicity, it's disappointing, okay? And for those people to surround themselves and be in the presence of a family, of a missing individual, it doesn't quite sit well, right? In comparison to me, no criminal record, no mugshots, none of that. Of course, I'm of a younger age, right? I've got less experience than all the other people. With a younger age comes less experience and less room for mistakes being made, of course. What about the future? That's unknown. But I'm just being honest and realistic, okay? I'm a neutral person. I might not, do you know, like when it comes to expectations and when it comes to delivery, I might not promise a lot, but I do deliver more than what I promise in the first place. Does that make sense? So I come on in and I'm like, hi, I'm going to be covering the Dylan Rounds case, try and make sense of it, see what's going on, do a little analysis here and there with the maps and expand onwards. I never said that I'm here to find Dylan Rounds and I'm going to be the one that solves it. Never said that. Even in the Kenny Veach case, people have said to me that I am the one to solve the case and find Kenny. I guess it's nice that people think that way of me, but I wouldn't say it myself because, you know, you promise too much, the expectations are going to be much higher. And if you don't deliver, people will be underwhelmed and disappointed, and it leads to more pressure being put on you. So I don't like that concept there, right? I just do what I can on the case. One thing that you won't see me do much at all, if not never, is going on other pages and news articles and Facebook pages and saying all nice positive messages and showing love and care and support for the family, missing loved ones and all that. I don't do that, right? Because I don't want to be a fake positive person, okay? Does that mean I'm not emotionally connected to a case? Well, as I said, I'm not emotionally connected to a case, but I'm here to do what I do because that's what I do and have done before. A range of these people and dark forces out there haven't done this before or to the same extent and intensity as I have. So this isn't new to me, really, but for other people, it might be. So there's level changes there to acknowledge. But in reference to the case of Dylan Rounds, and you know, I might leave the odd comment here and there elsewhere saying, yeah, the case is deep, there's twists and turns. Oh, I've covered this case over 400 videos and there's all kinds of different things going on and wacky stuff. That's what you'll see with my comments elsewhere, okay? As for other creators or other people out there, whether they're not exactly in favour by the eyes of others, most of the comments will be more so light-hearted and separate to the case, right? Just separate, casual communication, nothing more, nothing less. What the issue is, though, is some of the dark forces, some of the humans out there, the comments that they leave, all positive, nice, supportive, whether that be right now or in the past, and it might tie in line with leading a double life. Sometimes it's a double life, other times it's 1 minute you're this and then later you change, but it still happened. Either way, it still happened. But I have seen those leading a double life within the Dylan Rounds casing community. And that's what, you know, is a certain measuring point and factor of a bad role model. You get these individuals out there, ambassadors or their own little makeshift title, like what they call themselves, advocates, whatever, friends or supporters of missing loved ones and other families out there, are part of the connections and the legacy of Dylan Rounds. I'm not referring to Candice Cooley, Justin Rounds, in the name of the Dylan Rounds legacy, and then the other families out there under the Dylan Rounds legacy and connecting that way. I'm not talking about that. I'm not referring to those people. I'm referring to others that aren't directly within Dylan's legacy, but they've latched themselves onto it, or they've had some kind of supposed contact with Candice Cooley, Justin Rounds at some point, and then that instantly validates them as being on level with them and in connection with them and a part of the legacy. And it's like, do you know what a load of BS that is, because at some point or another, some of those people were actually against Candice Cooley, against Justin Rounds, or indirectly, but still supporting another channel or another person out there that was causing harm on the Dylan Rounds case, maybe creating misinformation, or being the enabler and spreader of misinformation, or at least giving Candice Cooley, Justin Rounds a headache within the Dylan Rounds case, right? Stuff like that has happened. I've seen some people out there with a little heartfelt positive messages towards Candice Cooley, and I'm like, really? Yet you've done or said the opposite elsewhere at the same time, or in the past, or in the future? Or you've just been around others and been quite fine with somebody else causing the disruption in a case. The hell's going on there? That's the type of stuff that's going on. As said, you can get straight up bad people. It is what it is. You see them for who they are. They may not be liked. They may be unpopular. They may be the villain, right? But that's it. It's pretty clean cut, straight to the point. But what about the people that lead a double life, positive and negative? They're not good role models, and are the worst type of role models out there. As I said, straight up bad people who are bad role models. It's that obvious, it stands out that clear. You don't become them, you don't follow them, okay? Maybe some exceptions of manipulation, emotional blackmail, vulnerability, but in general, if you saw a terrorist, okay, suicide bomber, you'd think bad role model, cowardly, taking innocent lives out, collateral damage, not really a good person. I don't want to become that myself. I said exceptions like radicalization, vulnerability, and being controlled there, brainwashing. But if you didn't include that and you just said it on a general basis, that's a good example of a bad role model. But what about a not so clear bad role model, the worst type, where someone can appear loving, caring, and nice, and maybe positive, motivational, but then you see them in a different light, in a different location, and they're the complete opposite. But not everybody knows about that dark side of the person or what they engage in, right? I mean, this is to a more severe extent an example. It doesn't compare to what we're talking about today, but I just want to mention it on the spot because it's an easy example, right? A policeman. You're supposed to have some form of faith and belief in them that they'll do the right thing and they'll serve the justice and do what they need to do and do their job properly. But some policemen or officers, detectives, whatever you want to call them, depending what country you're from, some have been caught out and have been engaging in some way physically or through online indecent images or indecent behaviour towards younger people. That type of stuff, you know exactly what I'm referring to. And you can say, well, it's the typical corrupt peoples at the top and in higher up positions. They claim to be doing good, but underhand, they're doing the complete opposite. The people that they're supposed to be safeguarding, they're also enabling the vulnerability and damage of those younger people that should be protected, and they're doing the opposite. Yeah, as an example of a bad role model, you look up to someone in a high position or a certain role of authority, and you have belief or faith in them that they do the right thing and that they're helping the general public, but secretly they're doing the opposite and doing their own bad stuff. But it's not always that obvious. It can be brought to light with time, but not immediately. So when you do find out, you kind of maybe a bit shocked or disappointed, right? That's what I'm talking about. One side, you got the obvious bad role models. It is what it is, right? You may be able to avoid them. You may be able to avoid becoming that. What about the others, undetected, the grey areas? That's exactly how it is within the Dylan Brown's case and community, and not everybody seems to be on level with that or aware, right? Now, in terms of me, in comparison to many other out there, outsiders of my channel, but involved in the Dylan Brown's case and community at some point, maybe most are of a older age and had more experience, but I can't compare to most of those people out there because are my standards higher? I can't say that because it would make me look like a narcissist if I actually responded back to that question. But, you know, people can do their observations of me or answer certain questions because then it's less biased. Others have tried though, and we've seen how that's gone. It's been inaccurate, it's been generalized, no substance, it's been poor. See, this is the thing. I can't respond back to every question, or I can't answer questions myself. It's better if it's on behalf of somebody else, so it's more natural and neutral, right? If I was to say, am I a better human than the likes of people on Bob Farrell's channel? Or am I a better human than those that gather on Fumblenut's channel? If I answered that, that would make me look like a narcissist and a kind of a bad person in a way. I'm not in a position to talk like in those questions, but those out there that have witnessed me and how I behave and how I act and what I say and do, such as in the Dylan Rounds case, and you who have been elsewhere to other places in the past or right now, you could compare, contrast. Of course, I can't, because if it's directly me saying it, it would be biased, and I don't want to do that because it has its own problems, okay? But one thing that I'm confident and aware in, there are active viewers on my channel and those watching in the background right now and previously that do engage in some way on other communities and channels out there. Fumblenuts, Bob Farrell, Twin Mama, okay? These are key creators that have participated in the Dylan Rounds case one way or another. Part-timers, but they're doing their own thing, okay? They've got their own roles and responsibilities, okay, is where it is. What comes with those three pillars of the community, if you want to call it that, comes with audience members that all came from different places beforehand. Jim Terry, Salty Pancakes, and then spread and form their own groups. Bob Farrell, Twin Mama, Fumblenuts popping up, and people breaking away from elsewhere and all collecting together as an alliance. And in recent times, there's been a few bumps in the road as we've seen and predicted, okay? But whilst people may be stronger together now in numbers, it is one against all, okay? I'm satisfied with that and I'm pleased with that because it goes with that typical notion and idea that it's one against all. It takes 20 to 300 people to defeat me and to take me down. Yeah, it only takes one, myself, to respond back and defend, right? Because this is the equivalent of 300 Spartans, the last stand against the Persian Empire and the oncoming army, and the thousands of arrows blotting out the sun, raining down upon me, okay? That's what the equivalent is, okay? Just like when it comes to coverage and making videos and material, content, talking points, a lot of these panels and channels rely on 2 to 3 people, if not more, and live streams and a live chat to be able to talk about stuff. How many of all these people out there that, let's say, care about the Dylan Rounds case have made a pre-recorded video, edited it together, made it a bit smooth and polished, and, you know, presented it as like a presentation without the reliance on co-host or panels and without the reliance on a live chat to answer questions? Hardly any, okay? Maybe the exception could be Mob Crew Chris. What I do also want to say though, right now, before I do forget, apologies if this is all a bit out of place, but, you know, I'm trying my best. Besides people who I know of, such as Skeptical, being a perfect example and role model as a human within this case of Dylan Rounds and just the community on YouTube in general, fellow investigators or creators that have covered this case of Dylan Rounds on a somewhat of a consistent basis in different formats, there's only 2 people. After all these years of the Dylan Rounds case and community and all the creators that have come and gone, well known or not, infamous or famous, whatever it may be, there's only 2 people besides me, okay? I'm not including myself in what I'm about to say right now because it would sound narcissistic, it would be unfair and biased. You can be the judge of how you see me in a way, right? But excluding me, excluding everything that I've done in the Dylan Rounds case, excluding the 400 plus videos I've done of the case, there's only two good role models that I've seen within the Dylan Rounds case. Mob Crew Chris and Glorin Dylan. Now, apologies if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. But at least from what I've seen and heard, Glorin Dylan and Mob Crew Chris haven't caused any problems in the case, haven't caused disruption towards Candice Cooley just in rounds, and have stuck to the original story of the case from day one, working alongside the family, maybe, or maybe just doing their own thing, but still doing their own coverage in a formal, serious way. Not pissing about, not being disrespectful to that extent, but focusing on the case, caring about it, and being somewhat consistent. Maybe they've not done it as long as me, and they've not made as many videos as me, but what they have presented, what they have created has been of good quality and depth, which is obviously needed on a case. So Mob Crew Chris has provided drone footage, boots on ground footage of the area searching about. Well, that's a key box to tick, isn't it? Glorin Dylan has been out there too at the Grainshed property, recorded it, presented it to the general public, and even allowed someone like me to use their footage to analyse and add on, which is obviously very good of them. So when Salty Pancakes ever says he is Mr. Dylan Rounds and he is the only person to have recorded areas of Luton, Utah and presented it to people on YouTube, he's the only one to do that, Salty Pancakes is wrong. Salty Pancakes' point is invalid. Because at the time when Salty Pancakes went to the Grainshed and recorded it, even if Pancakes never did that, Glorin Dylan was there and recorded it herself. So you take one person out of the mix, you got Glorin Dylan, okay? You take both out of the mix, you got Mob Crew Chris. You see how it goes, right? Not everything revolves around Salty Pancakes as much as he may want to believe in. There's been other people with time. I don't do the boots on ground, but I do the bird's eye view. I do the analysis. I do all the ongoing after stuff, right? People can go there and record and also search. That's very important and critical, okay, and useful and positive. But what comes after that? Sometimes people that do the boots on ground can't always do the analysis as well. I do that part. That's my role. That's what I've done in the past. That's what I still do. Right? It's clear, it's obvious as to what happens here. The dark forces out there, it's not as quite clear as to what they do or what their role is. And because I know and I'm aware of who is who nowadays, both creators and audience members out there, I'm aware that there is a lack of focus, there is a lack of direction, there is a lack of consistency, because with the switching and changing and constantly making mistakes and being two-faced and being hypocritical, they're in no place to stand, they're in no position or direction to speak. And yet they still have the audacity to call me out and mention false points and BS like that. And whilst you could huff and puff and retaliate back and complain, instead what I'm doing is applying me being on the receiving end to unnecessary disrespect and applying it on a broader, more serious scale and topic of today, okay, which is bad role models, bad individuals who are two-faced and hypocritical, and how they can align themselves to caring about a case, a missing person, or the family themselves, and they may be in contact with, but how much does the family know about these people, right, and their behaviour, okay? So that's like what it's about. Now, maybe this should have been said right at the beginning, but there's a way about talking things, and it is what it is today. I have adjusted a few things in case you're wondering, so there's no distractions behind me through the window. Just a tripod, hopefully it's not too uneven. Sometimes it creates a bit of an optical illusion, at least when I'm looking at it, but regardless. I do understand if people don't like this video, whether they find these type of videos boring, or more so regular viewers that do find these videos interesting, the talking points. But I do understand on this exception, if you didn't like it because of the direct theme and what was said recently about just moving on and doing the right thing and covering the case, I understand why people wouldn't like this video because of what it's about. But to understand, as I said, in the past, I would just responded immediately. Oh, this person said this person said that. Well, what about them? And that would have been it. I'm not doing that. There's more depth to this and there's more importance. You got the awareness, spreading awareness of the Dylan Rounds case, keeping it alive. That's obviously an important thing, isn't it? But isn't it just as important spreading awareness of the bad people that are present so you are aware of the issue? I can understand some people could be sick and blue in the face from being reminded of those bad people out there, because there's some people on my channel that knew from the beginning or knew very early on who was who. I do understand that. But for those that are very aware and maybe sick and tired of hearing this, just feel free to understand that new people do come to my channel, okay? As of last month, or the last, what was it? Yeah, I think it was the last month or the last 90 days, I got 400 and nearly 40,000 views on my channel. And 90% of that were new viewers. Only 10% were returning people. So you would understand that many, many new people are coming in at different points in times. These new people aren't going to know what's up and what's happened, right? If I can spread awareness early on, new people that come in won't be misguided, won't be brainwashed, won't be manipulated, so that when they do go certain places or elsewhere, they know what to expect and how to react and what to do when something happens. We have seen the damage already. We've seen how vulnerable people can be back then in the Dylan Rounds case and community. Do you want that to repeat itself? Because whilst others out there are very fine in repeating history, at least here, I don't want that to happen, okay? So I will do awareness, I will do updates, I will do observations, I will do analysis, but I'm going to refine it with time, like what's being done now, work in progress, or, you know, the foundations which have been built on since, right? So there is more depth to this than you may think, okay? I'm doing it now as well because of what's recently happened to me and how I can respond back to that. And it did give me the idea of the theme of today, right? It's very important. It's perfect timing. That's all I can say, right? Because I don't know how else it can be explained. This is perfect timing because of what's happened and what it can be based on and the overall theme of it. Just like all the other topic videos that I've done in the past, it's because it's the right place, it's the right time. So if anyone doubts this video or is a little bit uncertain and unsure behind my decision making and maybe a little bit worried or cautious, let's call it, because of how I'm responding back or what it comes across as, it's all under control here. There is a greater purpose behind it. There's more meaning behind this than in the past, which was just a simple response, okay? So I'm going into a bit more depth here to make it more meaningful and directly apply it to the Dylan Rounds case because it's people within the presence of the case and it's in response to my coverage on the case. So it's very much about Dylan Rounds, okay? So where do we begin first of all? Well, first of all, next door, I don't know if you've heard it or not, but there's work going on. Very annoying. That's all that seems to happen. Work, 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 more work done, cowboy builders, hiring dodgy people, noise, 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 disruptions. I don't like that, but it happens. So I'm working around it with the videos, right? The map analysis and storytelling, that needs to be done at the right place, right time. It's not the right place right now. Yesterday, I was in the moment of making it, but football was on, so I was distracted by that later. And the video that I did yesterday, it wasn't finished. The map analysis wasn't finished. I needed to add some markers on and I had to update it from the past, okay? Such as with the phone ping timestamp, switching it about. and the marker of Don Hatley's, I didn't have it on, and the supposed route that was taken by Brenner on the day of the 28th, as Candice Cooley said, going down the back roads back that way and going up to Don's place that way. I've added that in now, so it's more complete, the map analysis, and I can apply it next time round when I do the video. But in between all that, this has come up. A new idea for today, a new topic and talking point. That's why I wanted to refer to it. Now, up to now, besides the odd mention, the overall theme of this video, I've not really mentioned or gone into anyone's names, but I'm sure with your imagination and thoughts, you have your own ideas exactly to who is and who are the problem in the Dylan Rounds case, okay? You know, being honest, maybe people may not agree with this, but if we want to be really critical as for the purpose and meaning behind the presence of people within a case like Dylan Rounds, what have people actually provided? Okay? Ty Corbin provided boots on ground footage, Lance Kelly included. Mob Crew Chris never got involved in drama or conflict, stuck with the case and the original story, didn't drift away, didn't cause disruption, didn't add misinformation, stuck with it, did timestamps, did the timeline, boots on ground search. You can say Mob Crew Chris was almost the full package, okay? A good example of a person, and especially in the Dylan Rounds case. Glorin Dylan, the knowledge and information behind legal systems, as well as attending court hearings and trials like that. Some video footage of boots on ground searches, the Grainshed property, so that counts as well. Quite formal, somewhat informed, and neutral. No drama, no trouble. Pops into my channel, clears things up, answers questions. That's it. Patient individual. Another good example of a person. Maybe not as well-rounded as Mob Crew Chris, but they've provided valid points and just a good individual. Okay? Me, without saying too much, no boots on ground footage, no searches done, no physical hard work done in that sense, but extreme coverage in an analytical format, outlaying it all, everything, so people can always look back at it in a refined way besides the footage. So I'm not the complete package. I'm not an all-rounder. I'm just more specialised on a certain area and field in this case and others. And in addition, the original purpose, methods and success in keeping the case alive. That's what I said, that's what I did, and that's what happened. But what about Fumble Nuts? What about Kay Lee? What about Buster Bretimus? What about Bob Farrell? What about Twin Mama? What about communities and audience members, Fast Eddie and some others out there? What have they done? I said, it's a mixture of creators and viewers. It's understandable as to viewers that wouldn't do anywhere near as much as a creator because they're just here to watch. They're here to consume, and that's it. But some people can still do things in the background, can't they? As said, when it comes to my area, audience members, and I've mentioned the odd good example of a human, they're not a creator. They don't upload any videos. People on my channel, they don't do videos themselves of the Dylan Rounds case, just as a rough example. But what they do is research on the case in their own time, on other videos or articles online. Some individuals, you could say Weezer, you could say Skeptical, you could say Christie, getting hold of news links or articles or screenshots of websites and news stuff, which I can't get a hold of because I'm not from the US, but they do that themselves, or they find a way around, or finding court documents and, you know, important stuff like that, right? What you can say is, whilst I've done my coverage, there's a couple of audience members on my channel who aren't even creators, but what they've done, they've gone above and beyond in finding important information and evidence to support a point or a theory. etc. They're not even creators. They've got responsibilities. They're busy individuals, let's just say, and they still manage to do so much more than some creators do out there. That really sets the tone, okay? And it might come across negative that in terms of how I've compared to other people out there, the Twin Mama, the Bob Farrell community, the Fumble Nuts community, and the viewers over there. I'm not saying everyone, but, you know, roughly speaking, it might come across as negative. But there's a reason behind it, because of how some of those people have responded and called me out behind my back just recently. So this is all warranted and valid, okay? People get what they get because of how they've acted, and they'll be dealt with accordingly. I had said Judgment Day would come. It did. For the odd person out there, okay? Unrelated to Dylan Rounds. And just as a side note, if Vegas Girl is watching, unrelated again to Dylan Rounds, but I just thought I'd slip it in now. Vegas Girl, you did a reaction, a live stream reaction, indirectly promoting a channel out there that was attacking me in an insulting way, impersonation, the usage of deep fake AI technology in an insulting way, as well as manipulating and using footage of me, a photo of me without my consent. None of it done with my consent, breaking multiple serious guidelines on YouTube. If you think that's entertaining, fun, and perfectly okay, you are mistaken, Vegas Girl. You need to understand I have experienced this individual in the past. They've demonstrated defamation, slander of character towards me, and tried damaging my credibility on the Kenny Veach case. It's happened back then, it's happened again. History repeated itself. Typical individual did not learn from their past mistakes, okay? I've seen it before, and it's validated in terms of breaking guidelines. Do you think that's necessary? Do you think that's normal and okay? Because I don't. As said, Judgment Day came, and some out there was a response. And if need be, there'll be another response. Simple as, right? Yeah, there's times where we can joke about and laugh, but not now. Serious points. Hopefully you understand the importance behind that, Vegas Girl, okay? And this is another theme and topic I want to bring up on the spot, okay? I'm aware of who are the problem, okay? I'm aware of the disease. I'm aware of the cancer. I'm aware of the problematic people in the Dylan Rounds case and community and YouTube streets that may be within the case or close to the family, not close to the likes of other families out there that have gone through similar experiences as Candice Cooley, but just more so just people on the YouTube streets that may have called or texted Candice Cooley or Justin Rounds and think the best buddies in the good books, just like that. You don't see me doing that, do you? Right? I'm not pretending to be something that I'm not. As I said, I might not come across outgoing and positive and caring and kind when it comes to all these heartfelt messages and all this and that, what other people do, but I don't want to be fake, right? Might not promise much, but I deliver more than expected. So I might not say a lot of positive, nice messages out there towards people in the case, but what I do as an alternative, I back it up with the level of care and focus behind the case and keeping it alive. That's my way of showing interest within the case. That's my way of showing genuine focus on the case. Other people like to throw about all their happy emojis and positivity and quotes and all of this directly and indirectly, and then they undo it all by how they behave elsewhere. I don't do that. What's the point? What's the point in doing that, right? So, to refer back to, like I responded back to Vegas Girl saying, do you think it's necessary or unnecessary? I'm not asking them, choose a side. You do what you need to do and what you think you need to do, that's fine. It ties on with the factor of, I said, I know who is who and what's what and who's the problem in the Dylan Rounds case, and the majority are a problem. The creators, majority, are a problem. Audiences, a fair portion, outsiders, are a problem. directly or indirectly. I've seen it. I've seen the before and after. I've seen the changes. It is what it is. Valid observations made. Mob Crew Chris, Glor and Dylan, good examples of people that have covered the case and not caused any trouble, not participated in it, and have not even been dragged into it. So they've done good. They've done something right. Okay? Me, I've been a bit more hands-on, a bit more dirty in the mud pit. Okay? But because I'm doing more analysis and I'm doing more videos and I'm more consistent, it's kind of inevitable, right? Do you like how we said on like a side note that, okay, there's other people out there that have made mistakes with time. Well, they've lived longer than me to make those mistakes, right? I'm younger, so less likely for those same level of mistakes as that. I said there's some exceptions, but that's how it can be or portrayed as. So like with YouTube and videos, people upload videos, okay, things can happen or things may not happen. They may choose not to get involved with this or that. But because I do more videos, there's just more chance of being a target, right? There's more chance of criticism because I'm just around more, right? It is what it is. So just like common sense there, okay? But whilst I'm aware of the problems out there and the diseases, I'm also aware that there's a variety of people on my channel right now or just over time who participate elsewhere where the problem is. Twin Mama, Bob Fowler's community, Fumblenuts community. I'm aware there's people watching right now and over time that will participate elsewhere, over there. And where they participate over there, who they're listening or look up to, those are the ones that are causing me trouble or trying to attack me or undermine me or ridicule me, okay? That's just how it's happened. Collective conscious, collective group of people that may have been once at war with one another, connected as one, and now some have it in for me or maybe threatened by my presence, right? Because I've returned back to the case and people are thinking, oh no, he's back, oh no. And that might be why people are critiquing me and ridiculing me in the background. If you want, you know, the references as to what's happened recently, I can mention that shortly, but I said there's more importance to this video than just that, because there's an overall theme and topic, as I said. But yeah, I will provide a backstory in case you're wondering, because it's important to know the backstory, right? But all I'll say is, to the people that are watching right now and over time, specifically to the people that participate in those chats, those live streams and those panels, I understand. It's okay. What I mean by that is, I'm aware, I fully understand that you may genuinely get on well with those people. They cause you no problems and no harm. You may witness them treating me badly and disrespecting my name on the case of Dylan Rounds. But I do understand that maybe you're in a position where you don't want to go against it. You don't want to speak up because it's a 1-on-5 situation. You might be outnumbered. You might get attacked. It might cause you more problems. It might even put your life in danger, or it might just cause you more stress simply by defending me. I understand that. And in addition, if you do get on well with those people out there, you shouldn't let what's happened to me impact your relationship on those people over there, okay? If you get on well with them, that's good. If you are aware of what they're saying about me, I guess it is what it is. All I'll say is, the only time when it will become a problem, or can become a problem, if people came on over here appearing all supportive and very kind and, you know, supposedly very loyal, right? Promising a lot, but under-delivering. You know that theme and topic what I just mentioned earlier. If people portrayed themselves like that, that leads to a high expectation. But then if they aren't loyal and they aren't defending me and they're participating elsewhere and enabling and allowing what's going on in the background, then that's two-faced, okay? But what I'm aware of, that isn't the case, thankfully. It was in the past, though. One example, how it came across, not so much in what they said, but more in how they behaved. Let's get that very clear. Indiana 59. In the past, Indiana 59 did send the odd super chat or alternative super chat, as well as participating on my channel in a positive, neutral, funny way. It was appreciated. It was good of her to do what she did at the time, Indiana 59. It came across as supportive. Later, she claimed she had no loyalty to anyone. But how she behaved at the time, originally, it was a form of loyalty or a form of support, positive support. She undid herself over time for how she presented herself elsewhere and how she spoke about me, and back chats and undermining comments and maybe some backhanded compliments or backhanded responses, and as well just talking behind my back. So she kind of undid herself there. Came across as somewhat supportive and interactive in a positive way, but then there was a darker side to them elsewhere, and we saw that more evidently with time. That was unfortunate, okay? So how they presented themselves as at first was active, interactional, and positive, and then the complete opposite elsewhere. That's disappointing. That is the definition of two-faced, okay? And a bit of a hypocrite as well in between. But there'll be other people out there, just like right now, who are here or will be here, and they do participate elsewhere. But how they appear here, they're behaving in a casual way, funny, positive, whatever, but not promising a lot, and that's fine. People who don't promise a lot, there can't be much disappointment from them, right? If someone doesn't promise much, there's not going to be high expectations. So what I'm putting my point across, if people didn't understand, is if you're present here watching and interacting, but then you go elsewhere afterwards where there's trouble, or where there's other people you look up to or get on well with who just so happen to be disrespecting my name or my coverage on the Dylan Brown's case, undermining me, and even slandering false labels, if you're not defending me, I'm not that bothered. So it's okay. The reason why I'm saying that, and hopefully people don't see that in a cocky way or in an insulting way, it's nothing to do with like a cult mentality like others demonstrate. What I'm trying to do is making it clearer and easier for people, because I'm aware when you're caught in a conflict, a crossroads, you might be an individual. And let's just use people as an example. Matt Lingo, Dale. They go where they want and maybe go to places who they get on well with. And that can cross over from my channel to Jim Terry's channel, BJ's channel, at one point Bob Farrell's channel, maybe Bell V. It's all over the place. They go where they feel like, where they want to, okay? Not primarily for the video or the topic talking point, but more so for the live chat and interaction with people they get on well with, whether they see them as friends or just acquaintances, whatever it may be. Dale, Matt Lingo go about. But when someone like Dale and Matt Lingo are forced into a corner where they've got to choose sides and support someone, it can be problematic, it can be tricky. It might feel like pressure is put onto you. Now, there's a fair chance that Dale, Matt Lingo aren't fazed by this and they couldn't care less, right? I mean that in a positive way. But there'll be other people out there who watch my videos on my channel and then go elsewhere, and if it ever came to a point where they've got to choose sides, whether they defend and support me, or they defend and support what Fumblenuts, Kaylee, Twin Mamas community are saying about me, it would be awkward for that person, caught in the middle, exactly like how it was for others in the past. You shouldn't have to be in that position, because when you are, pressure can be put onto you, and it feels like no matter what choice you make, you've made the wrong decision, or you may feel like a bad person. What I'm saying right here, right now, is easing that what do you call it, pressure. You don't have to support, you don't have to defend me. If you feel like you're in a compromised situation and all you can do is lay low and keep quiet, okay, it's okay. It is what it is. If you get on well with other people out there, but those other people have a problem with me, it shouldn't become your problem, right? You shouldn't have to decide who you support. You shouldn't have to throw the other people away, even if you get on well with them. You should be able to do what you do and do what you want, okay? So no trouble here. You do what you need to do. If you go elsewhere, and it just so happens that elsewhere, I don't like those people, or I sense that there's a problem with that community, I'm not going to change in that sense to how my outlook is on you, especially if you move from channel to channel, okay? So there's no pressure here. You do what you need to do, and that's it. The only time it becomes a problem is if you come here, you promise a lot, right? Very supportive and all that nice positivity, and it turns out to be false words. That's disappointing. If you just come casually, you come and go, fine, it's okay. It is what it is. I said, there'll be some exceptions of people that are here and have been here for some time and have been very supportive in different ways and very helpful. And they haven't participated badly elsewhere, or at least from what I'm aware of. Good examples of people, but that's a different category, right? They don't promise a lot, but they show a lot and they back it up in a positive way. Equal in different topics to the people that come casually. How they present themselves is casually, and how they leave is casually. It's normal. It's clear. As long as there is clarity, there is no trouble. Okay? As long as there's clarity, you don't have to pick a side. You don't have to choose a side. You don't have to isolate yourself. You don't have to push people away, right? I mean, to a very small extent, at some point in the past, I wasn't impacted by something. I'm not talking about YouTube here, completely different. I wasn't impacted by something directly, but someone who I know was. So what I did is I disconnected myself from those people. I shouldn't have to, but I just felt it was the right thing to do. But in the end, it wasn't that necessary. And in a way, I think it caused more harm or more problems than it was worth. And the other person said, well, it was good of you to do what you did, but you didn't have to, okay? And because they said that and they showed that understanding, then I can apply that here, okay? My problem or my mess, or I'm caught up in something, you don't have to involve yourself if you don't want to, okay? What's happened has happened, or what will happen, and that's it, okay? So yes, at times it may feel like one against all, me against an entire community, me against multiple creators and big audiences in total. You think of that collective consciousness, how many are there? 200 to 400 people against me? But that's okay, that's fine, that's fine. Because it just shows that it takes that many people to dethrone one individual. It takes that much firepower and backing to try and put me down. That's fine. It reminds me of the time of when I was playing rugby in high school. Obviously, keep to myself, quiet, etc. When I did rugby, physical, able to be physical and not even get in trouble. And there's a time where it took 5 people to take me down, okay? And back then I wasn't doing weights, I wasn't doing any of that at all. But even back then at that younger age, 5 people, including one person that I think was a big build and did bodybuilding or something, to take me down. 5 people physically. And people were shocked, okay? Because obviously I'm the typical, keep my head down, and when something happens, it's like, whoa, what's this person doing, right? So it happened there. It happened physically, taking 5 people to restrain me in rugby, just like how it can take over 300 to 400 people to try and silence me on YouTube. It's no different. I'm used to this, okay? And as a heads up, before people feel like they are undervalued or not acknowledged, I am aware that There's a couple of people on my channel that have defended me or have tried to with time. That's good of people to do that, okay? But I'm also aware at times people may feel powerless or may not be able to do much because they don't know what to do, or they just don't have the ability to do so. That's understandable as well. No pressure there, okay? I mean, if you're a content creator, you might have more tools at your disposal to report something, to defend something, to reach out to Team YouTube, to reach out for help. If you're a viewer, an audience member with not an established channel, you might not have the same tools as the creator does. So yeah, it might feel a bit more powerless, but you know, it is what it is. As I said, I'm just outlining this so people are aware, okay? So a sub theme and topic of today is no pressure. Wherever you go, whoever you look up to, no pressure. But if you do present yourself in a two-faced way, we do have a problem. We do have trouble, okay? As long as you're not two-faced, fine. If you're casual through and through, good. If you're dark through and through, fine. If you're positive through and through, no matter where you go, okay. An example of the latter one, is that what we call it? The latter, the final example would be American Honey. Positive here, positive on Salty Pancakes channel in the past, positive in Bob Farrell's channel, positive wherever she goes. It's consistent. It is what it is. Some people could say she's too positive. Not from me, but some people could say she's naive and maybe a bit vulnerable. Whatever it is, she's consistent through and through. At least from what I've seen, observationally speaking. So yeah, you got that. It's when you can't quite see it or when others can't. And that's how it can come into today. So, I guess now I can provide the backstory as to why we're here right now. And as I said, there's a bigger picture to it, but it correlates to the theme. In recent time, my name was brought up elsewhere. It became of my interest, and the interest being that my predictions came true. I said that whilst stepping back from the Kenny Veach case temporarily because of the way I was being treated there by people in an unnecessary, invalid way, I thought, right, what about Dylan Rounds? I've not done that much. It's dying out. Need to inject some new life. So that's what I did. And I said, knowing my luck, as one door closes, another one will slam in my face when I try covering it. And that's exactly what happened. So I just wanted to reiterate it as proof of my predictions and what I've presented to some people in recent time. That's it. And then adding on the awareness as to the issue, the ongoing one. So, who started it? Fumble Nuts. Who is Fumble Nuts? Well, person from the US. Now, we don't need to get into all negatives. All I'm aware of, because of the constant reference points, as negative as it may seem, just constant reference points. Fumble Nuts, past criminal record, mugshots, whatever. Supposedly strangled someone. Not exactly a good look, but whatever's happened there has happened in the past. Have they become a better person with time in different ways? No, not really. They may think or appear as a good person, and they may advocate for this and that, and very passionate about it, advocating for missing loved ones and families suffering out there, and advocating for the awareness of corrupt private investigators. And others can follow, like Polish Girl in Vegas and some other people in Kaylee, whatever. They can advocate for that. They can do good there. They can spread awareness there. But what they do is undo it all by how they respond to me and ridicule me behind my back in a cowardly way, when all I'm simply doing is covering a missing person case and keeping it alive. The only difference is with me, I'm doing it more consistently and more frequently than anyone else combined together because of the amount of videos that I've done. Because I've been around long enough, because I've been consistent and frequent, I've eventually turned and been perceived as the villain in the case, the black sheep, okay? That's what outsiders' perceptions are of me, that I'm a bad person, that me covering the case is a bad thing, and that I align and support Jim Terry in the eyes of some, like Polish Girl in Vegas, which makes absolutely no sense, okay? Idiotic statements like that and references in a cowardly fashion as well in the background. So, like I said in the past, when it comes to salty pancakes, he did supposedly good in the early days when covering the case and presenting footage and allowing people to use his footage or some of it as an analysis. But with time, he undid his good work by his false labels, his paranoid behaviour and erratic performances, and as well meltdowns, and as well some conspiracy theories out of control. He undid his good work. So all these people advocating for this and that and appearing all caring and stuff, such as Fumble Nuts, Kaylee, Polish Girl in Vegas, etc., and others out there, can't remember everyone on the spot, okay. They claim to be doing good and shedding light on things, but at the same time, they're doing the opposite towards me. They're not acknowledging, they're not being neutral towards me. No, they're trying to put me down, they're trying to be negative, they're trying to ridicule me, just for simply covering the Dylan Rounds case. Of course, you can say it's childish behaviour, or jealousy, or they feel threatened by my presence. It could be anything, okay? They could be frustrated or annoyed by me. But at the end of the day, I'm simply covering the case and single-handedly keeping it alive. That's what I said I was going to do from day one, and that's what I'm doing still to this day. Whilst all these other people out there, these part-timers who come and go and talk about a bit about Dylan Rounds and then the rest just pissing about, laughing and joking and giggling around a campfire, I'm here almost every single day being somewhat serious, right? You know, some like little cut-off points where we transition into something else, but when I'm doing what I'm doing, trying to keep serious for quite some time. And it, you know, you don't have to speak too much there. It shows in itself on my channel. I said all videos are available, up, archived, and there. Polish Girl in Vegas doesn't like the idea of me covering the Dylan Rounds case and presenting different points of views. Polish Girl in Vegas basically wants me to be biased, one-sided, and only look in a certain direction and exclude everything else. What a stupid individual that person is to be that way. You claim about advocating for light and shedding the truth on stuff and highlighting the darkness here and there. I am the one that has shown balance in looking at the darkness and the light and bringing it closer together, magnifying and concentrating it to understand why there is such a split and why and how and what caused it. You want that removed? You want history to be removed? Won't it repeat itself? How can people learn from it and adapt? They can't if it's taken away. And that's what Polish Girl in Vegas is advocating. Besides advocating spreading awareness of corrupt people out there and private investigators, she also wants others to take down videos for simply being balanced. Undoing themselves, a bad role model. Their attitude is terrible. Their mindset is weak, pathetic, a pathetic excuse of an individual and a bad role model. They claim to be doing good, but elsewhere they undo it all by their attitude and their lack of perception towards me. That's what I'm trying to say, okay? So with Fumble Nuts, okay, apologies about this, I just want to make it very clear. Fumble Nuts in Twin Mama's live stream, the last one, stated that Warlight Raf is the only person that knows about Dylan Rounds' case. Now, you could see that and think, oh, that's meant in a genuine way. Fumble Nuts is basically saying that Warlight Raf is the only person that knows the truth on the Dylan Rounds case, isn't about the BS and all of that. But in terms of how people responded back to Fumble Nuts' comment, it was actually said in a sarcastic way. Fast Eddie responded back to Fumblenut's statement about Warlight Ref and used the crying laughing emoji 4 times, finding it very amusing. So whilst Fast Eddie will come into my live premieres and chats and partially talk about the case and talk to other people, all smiley and happy, they're doing a complete opposite elsewhere. A snake in the grass, a two-faced individual. I'm not surprised by it because, to my knowledge, I was always aware of this, okay? But you can see it firsthand yourself if you look back. I've always seen Fast Eddie as a problematic individual that tried to have an answer for everything, but didn't always word things correctly or precise in wording. But his excuse was there's not enough time for this or that. Oh, but there seems to be enough time for you to talk elsewhere and respond back behind my back. So I'm sure there's enough time, you just got some excuses here and there. Right? I said, Fast Eddie, problematic person, is what it is, seen it in the past, seen it once again. But do other people know? Is Fast Eddie a good role model? No clue there. But in terms of one's attitude in general, problematic nature, not exactly a good role model there in behaviour and outlook of things. Needs a lot of work. Room for improvement, just like the rest. Fumblenut's been the instigator of it all by starting the thread about Warlight Ref in a sarcastic tone, Fast Eddie responding back, which then led to the ongoing dialogue between Buster Bratimus, a long-time disliker of my channel. Never once really mentioned anything positive here. All they did was complain and complain, in which if they truly care about the Dylan Rounds case and if they truly care about Dylan Rounds' name, they would set aside their hatred towards the channel here and actually provide some valid discussions on the case and show a level of balance. Buster Bratimus never did that. Buster Bratimus, a one-dimensional, one-sided, negative individual, showing a form of toxicity and hatred towards this channel, and not having anything positive or constructive to say, with really no proof at all, and in the past, false claims and slandering and defamation of character of Warlight Ref by stating that clickbait is used in the title, when in actual fact, question marks were used at times, which actually goes against clickbait. It's not stating it, it's not promising a lot, it's just putting it out there as a discussion, as a level of uncertainty. Buster Bratimus, English language in general, lacking there. False claims made, false statements, defamation of character of somebody else, as well as always being negative and complaining elsewhere, but being selectively positive elsewhere. On top of Buster Bratimus supporting Jim Terry and that community back in the past, which was damaging and harming the Dylan Rounds case, Buster Bratimus has made many mistakes and continues to do so. Arguably, in those areas, specifically speaking, Buster Bratimus is a terrible role model and an embarrassment on people around him if that's how he behaves elsewhere. To my prediction, I wouldn't be surprised if he's the opposite around others. Okay? So there's more of a darker side towards Buster, if you want to put it that way. But all in all, a bad role model of an individual with defamation of character, false claims made, always being negative, claiming to care about the Dylan Rounds case and Dylan Rounds himself, and all Buster can do is obsess over me and criticise. Pathetic individual, another waste of oxygen. Okay, I'm just making valid observations. I've seen it, I've witnessed it, I'm just putting it into perspective, okay, on the general theme of today. Buster did respond back to Fumblenut's response and said, "Oh, Warlight Ref is a douche." I don't use that word. That must be American language. Again, Buster saying something like, all he does, he sits there, he talks and drones on, and he knows nothing about the United States. First of all, okay, I cover true crime, I cover mysteries, I've got a YouTube channel. I sit here, I talk, I analyse, sometimes I stand up and when I'm doing Google Earth, I stand up and speak overlay on top of whatever I'm looking at. And Buster Bretimus is saying all he does is sit down and talk. Well, first of all, Buster, your point's invalid once again, because often I do stand up when I'm doing my other coverage besides sat here, okay? And secondly, what the hell am I supposed to do? What else do you want me to do? You want me to do press-ups? You want me to do jumping jacks? You want me to do squats? You want me to do handstands upside down whilst I'm talking about the case? You want me to do a Kaylee Shack Lady crossover of shoving things into one's mouth whilst trying to talk? You know, I can multitask, but there's a time and place for that, right? It's like saying to somebody who's driving a car on the motorway, all you do is sit there and have your hands on the wheel. Well, what more do you want to happen? You want the person to be stood on top of the car whilst it's driving by itself? What a stupid point made by such a silly individual such as Buster. I mean, I don't know how old Buster is, but they definitely lack common sense. Of course I'm going to sit down when I'm talking, such as right now. I'm not going to stand upside down, okay? I mean, what a stupid point by a silly person. You see what I mean? This is what we're dealing with. So besides a bad role model, we're dealing with how they portray themselves, a low IQ individual. How they portray themselves, that's what I mean, okay? Now, besides that Kaylee chipped on in, which was surprising to me, I guess, because I've not really interacted with Kaylee much. And whenever I have done, it's mainly been in a light-hearted way, in which I guess she has somewhat of a sense of humour when she laughs, when she giggles, okay? That type of behaviour, you would have seen it by me in the past, okay? And it started back when Kaylee333, her original username, which when you type it in on YouTube still comes up as her channel, even if she doesn't associate with pancakes anymore, those traces are still there and will never leave, evidently speaking, okay? But another example of a person that hung around a supposed bad individual, okay? So Kaylee, like Buster, making mistakes by who they surround themselves with and who they look up to and support. People make mistakes, they do, but some make more mistakes than others. And on top of that, some make repeated mistakes with time. And that's what we're seeing here. How many mistakes have I made when it comes to the Dylan Rouse case and community, or who I've looked up to, or who I've supported? Well, some of those things are already invalid as for measures, okay? You talk about the reliability, the validity, the measures of a certain variable. Non-existent. You don't see me supporting other channels to that extent. Just being honest, okay? Because I'm a creator individually. I'm doing my own thing for most of the time, okay? You don't see me directly involving myself or consuming myself in holding up something that is causing the downfall of a case, like those named individuals have, or once did, okay? So once again, I can't compare myself to people like that, okay? You yourself as a viewer can come to a certain conclusion, positive or negative about me, that's fine. As long as it's somewhat valid and a form of common sense is used, of course. But yeah, despite that, Kaylee once supporting and being around salty pancakes, we know how that goes. Supposedly, Kaylee was in a vulnerable situation, a vulnerable person, and maybe even manipulated and controlled by pancakes, unable to break away because she couldn't, in fear of being attacked or worse. Okay. What you'll notice is people that have done bad things or have gone through suffering should show a greater form of understanding and care towards others in the future going through the same thing. These people don't learn. These people don't have that understanding or empathy, okay? They may claim to in certain areas, like the advocating for missing people in families and corrupt people out there trying to solve it. Okay, You may do it there, but you don't do it elsewhere. And where you don't do it, you undo yourself. It's disappointing and yet another bad role model aspect and factor. Okay? This is the true hypocrisy of all these people from a collective group of conscious minds. Okay? Subconsciously, they might be aware of what they're doing, but they're in denial. Okay? But I've seen it, and I can only see it because I've seen before and after, and I look at it from a balanced viewpoint. I mentioned strengths and weaknesses about these people. So I'm not going in like a witch hunt. I have mentioned positives with time. Okay? But at times, a certain response is needed, and that's what follows now. So besides Kaylee making mistakes over time, and the odd one in the Dylan Brown's case, parted ways, did her own thing, and grouped up with others with time. Okay. So Kaylee has been here on my channel, been in the chat, as you've seen. Basically, 90% of the time, Kaylee is giggling, laughing, joking about. Maybe half the time, not paying attention to my videos about Dylan Rounds, a case which supposedly a person cares about or shows interest in, but doesn't when I'm doing my coverage. But when Kaylee does her own live streams, like with the Alex Easterling case, it's like, okay, this is my first time doing this. I want everyone to focus and be respectful. This is an interview. This is very serious. This is very important. I hope you can respect my decisions and what we're doing here. Please, if you haven't got anything good to say, can you keep quiet? We don't want disruption here. This needs to be controlled. I'm really nervous, but this is an important moment. Okay. So you should treat people how you would like to be treated yourself, and yet you don't do that, Kaylee. That's hypocritical and two-faced, right? All vulnerable and kind of fragile because you didn't want disruption when you did your video, but when you go elsewhere or you go to my channel, you're all laughing, joking, loud, boisterous, and all over the place. Not exactly a bad thing, but considering the videos that I've been doing on the Dylan Rounds case, serious, focused and critical, and yet you've not paid attention, but you demand attention on your own channel. Very two-faced and one-sided. Very disappointing, okay? Pathetic. This might sound a bit too far. I can understand that from some people, but let me elaborate as to why I've responded back like this, okay? So, besides the lightheartedness in the past for most part of it, after what Fumblenuts said recently, after what Fast Eddie did and how Buster responded, Kaylee ended up responding and said, yeah, almost appearing as she was agreeing with what Buster said about me. Not exactly a good start. And then Kaylee goes on by devaluing and also underestimating my channel. Kaylee, in other words, basically says all Warlight Ref does is go on the Find Dylan Rounds Facebook page, read out some news, and that's it. He doesn't really do much. Anyone can do that. The irony of that all is after what Kaylee claimed, what happened next? Twin Mama saying, so what's going on with Dylan Rounds? What's going on with the legacy? And Kaylee's like, I think it's this. I think it's that. Hold on, let's go on over to the Find Dylan Rounds Facebook page, the same place which I supposedly rely on. So that's what they did, and then they got the information, and they're months behind. What they were looking at a few days ago, I covered months ago. Now, it's not a competition, of course, but for people to devalue me at a point and underestimate what I've done, and yet they do the same thing, which they claim isn't that special, and yet how they present themselves in caring about the case, but they show the lack of knowledge on the case and updates is pathetic. That's why they're behind. Slow. Disappointing. Okay? Now, who was in control of the screen at the time? I'm not sure. But the general consensus being, oh, let's laugh at Warlight Ref behind his back. Cowardly. Okay? And on top, undermine him and his coverage on the case, and what he's basically done is nothing. So what Kaylee is basically stating, and bust it in agreement, is that Warlight Wrath has made over 462 videos, and all 462 plus videos are all about the Find Dylan Rounds Facebook page. You are wrong. Very wrong, okay? See, this is the thing, Kaylee. You wouldn't come to that generalization or false conclusion if you actually paid attention for once in a while when you were on my channel, okay? We can all laugh and giggle. But maybe sometimes you need to shut your mouth and look at the screen and not the live chat and actually appreciate what's being presented to you, Kaylee, because you're not showing that level of appreciation, okay? Just remember the time, okay? Far more established than you. Just simply stating as a fact from what you see on YouTube and the statistics. But I came into the Alex Easterling case. You were appreciative of. I didn't go against the story. I did what I could, did a bit of an analysis here and there, and you were positive about it. Even the mother of Alex Easterling was too. Where has that gone since, Kaylee? What's made you change in this way, okay? Is there something in the background? I'm confused slightly. But most importantly, I'm disappointed in you, okay? So you understand, right? With the Alex Easterling case, I didn't even want to rush in too much because I thought, well, Kaylee comes across as an individual that will know more than me because she's spent more time on it. So I anticipate her knowledge to be of value and importance alongside the mother of the missing individual, okay? So I didn't devalue or undervalue Kaylee's importance and presence on that case in particular. Yet what Kaylee presented herself towards me was not focused, not listening, too busy laughing and joking, giggling and pissing about, and not actually caring or focusing on the Dylan Rounds case, which she claims to care about, and not even focusing on my critical analysis points. Yet all the whilst, she expects people to focus and listen in onto her critical videos. So it's okay to go elsewhere to cause disruption, but when it's your time, me time, oh, you demand more, you demand better. You demand a lot, but you can't give out a lot. As said, this is all warranted for people's behaviour. And as I said, I detest hypocrites. I detest two-faced people. Always have done, always will do. Long before the Dylan Rounds case, back at the age of 14 years old, I detested hypocrites, repeated hypocrites, and two-faced people. They're the worst kind of cancer in this world, right? Because they do both things. They benefit both ways, but they don't show themselves in their true format all at once. They may show a positive side at some point, but then they show the dark side at a later stage. It's hard to tell when you're going to see which side from them. And for others out there who may witness it, depends what side they see to that person. They may only see the positive side, and if that's first impressions, that's what they get of that individual. I might get negative first impressions. So our outlooks of that person are different, but we're both correct in what we see and think. We've just seen them at different times. They're shape-shifting. Indiana was a good example of that. Somewhat joking, maybe a bit positive, a bit supportive here, but then elsewhere after, very toxic, dark, negative. And when they revealed their true self as the devil's daughter, as they claimed to be, and with zero loyalty anywhere, which doesn't sound too promising, right? In all fairness. It came to the latter stages where Indiana was undermining, criticising me, and being very passively aggressive whenever I covered Dylan Rounds' videos. And then when I did cover Kenny Veach, she was very neutral and talking about the case as if she knew it all, but at the same time not causing any trouble. But it was blatantly obvious that depending on the video I did, Dylan Rounds or Kenny Veach at that time, the difference was night and day difference. That is true two-faced behaviour. Exactly. Okay? So I'm seeing that within other people with time as well. Okay? So, as said, Kaylee made a false statement about me. Okay, you look at my channel, you look at my playlist, besides the Find Dylan Rounds Facebook page, which is, to be honest, a good place to go to if you want to hear about the latest updates. Isn't that what you would want and require? If you're an advocate or you're a supporter of Candice Cooley or the family out there, such as Kaylee in some way or another, then surely you'd appreciate me sticking with the story, considering elsewhere, where the story changes and switches. And yet Kaylee has appeared in the presence of Bob Farrell, Twin Mama, who have had guests on or people with time that have spread misinformation and Chinese whispers of the Dylan Rounds case, and yet you're okay to surround yourself by that and be completely blind and oblivious to that, all the whilst you completely devalue what I've done by following the story, but at times outside of the box thinking, but in a valid, critical, balanced and stable way, yet you completely underestimate all that, all the whilst being in the presence of darkness and a bit of corruptness and disruption with time, right? I mean, it's like you could get a person that's in the presence of a paedophile, okay, or wants a paedophile, and yet you're around that person now, and it's like, oh, I'm completely oblivious to whatever's happened in the past, whatever, and then you're very critical of other people for similar stuff or the same thing, and it's like, whilst you're very critical, you don't exactly have standards yourself, considering who you surround yourself with, another paedophile. That is just an example, nothing more, nothing less, but you can see the extreme case of it, right? You're all about Dylan Rounds, or you're just all about missing people cases. You want justice. You don't like the dark presence of people that intentionally harm a case and families out there, right? So you're really focused on that. Yet you surround yourself with people that have participated in that with time. And that doesn't just apply to Kaylee and the Salty Pancakes movement. It doesn't apply to just Buster Bretimus and the Jim Terry movement. It applies to many of the people out there, two-faced hypocrites, which aren't exactly good role models themselves. Am I saying that they're bad role models if they've got children? No, that's not my place to say. Other people have said some people like that, and others as well in the community are bad role models or troublesome with children, bad influences. That's not my position to say. I don't specialise in that. I don't need to focus in that. That's too personal, okay? I understand. But there might be some people out there that might have a criminal record or might be on drug substance abuse or stuff like that, which can alter them. And could it put other people in other ways, in other harm? Who knows? But that's not my place to focus on. There might be some people out there that like to strangle me, daddy. There might be some other people out there that do other things, right? But I'm specifically speaking about the Dylan Rounds case as for being a bad role model, considering how they present themselves in such a godly, positive light, and yet what they're surrounded by is actual darkness, okay? See, this is the thing. All this time whilst I've been talking, many people unaware that what was below me under my neck was this. And to be honest, when you see something like that, you think darkness, you think evil, you think corruption. It's not exactly a good look, is it? But this is the thing. I'm not over-promising. I'm not saying I'm a good person. I'm not saying I'm an advocate. I'm just a simple individual trying to keep the case alive, okay? Do I align with anything? No. Do I pledge allegiance to anything? No. Am I a part of any true community out there? Not really. Does that make me unloyal? No. Loyalty can be measured in different ways, of course. So, you know, misconceptions can occur with time, especially if you see something like this. But then when you look back after everything that's happened and what's been done, okay, you put it all into balance and perspective. It's just unfortunate that the majority of people in the Dylan Rounds case, when you look at it now and you look back, they don't have that balance. They are arguably bad role models in different ways. Can they be a danger in life? Depending how you look at it, maybe. Can they be a danger within a case? Absolutely, right? Might have not happened yet, but there's always that chance, right? A danger directly or a threat directly to a family of a missing loved one, maybe, maybe not. It depends whether it be a creator or an audience member or one that becomes a creator. You can be an indirect contributor to the downfall of a case, and I think that's the majority of what we've seen, okay? With all these people making those mistakes of who they've looked up to and who they've supported, and those who they've supported and been around, and still to this day, those creators may have caused harm in the case or just simply confusion and misinformation, which has given YouTubers a bad look overall, like how Justin Rounds perceives YouTubers, as we saw in that Dylan Rounds documentary, okay? So yeah, you can say it's disappointing, but it happens. Now, specifically speaking, I hope people haven't turned off, okay? Just one factor I wanted to mention, and if there's any people here that do watch elsewhere, you can always pass the message on if you want, in case there's any misunderstandings. When it comes to Twin Mama, at least from my knowledge, at least from what I'm aware of, she has never caused me trouble directly, okay? I've never had any bad run-ins with Twin Mama. I've never interacted with her, okay? I've mentioned her name, but it's more so in reference to her community and who hangs out there, okay? In case anyone's wondering. Do I think Twin Mama is a bad role model? No. I don't have enough information or enough observational points to come to a conclusion, okay? There's no need for me to do so, so I don't need to mention anything, okay? I hope people understand that. If some don't, that's their loss. Selective hearing. I'm trying to outline it with time, okay? So basically what this is, a small event of people for a very short period of time critiquing me and ridiculing me. Despite everything I've done within the case and how I've kept it alive, those people have chose not to acknowledge that. Is it because they don't stick around long enough? Possibly. Is it because they're very biased? Absolutely. Is it because they've got selective hearing? Absolutely, right? You stuck around long enough on my channel and you saw the variety of coverage, you would know there is more to it than the Facebook page of Dylan Rounds. And as I said about Kaylee, if Kaylee spent less time giggling and laughing and actually took it more serious for once in her life, she would actually understand and appreciate what I've done in the Dylan Rounds case, considering she was very appreciative and positive when I looked into the Alex Easterling case, right? What's changed since for you to have this negative outlook on me all of a sudden? There's no backstory, or at least to my knowledge, so if it can be filled in, that would be good. The only thing that I could think of, and it's like with Fumblenuts, never really interacted with him before. I mean, when I saw his face in the past, I thought, bit of a wonky face, some mangled fingers, whatever, okay? But that's being light-hearted, nothing more. The one thing that I did notice with Fumblenuts, he did look like a knockoff version of Matthew McConaughey from Temu. Okay, and I'm sure Kaylee, the brand ambassador of Temu, will probably be presenting a discount on that. But you see, bit of a look-alike there, Matthew McConaughey, but I guess it's not all right, not quite. I said I've not had any negative run-ins with Fumblenuts, but he doesn't seem to think much of me. It is what it is. But this is the thing. There is a possible sub-factor as to why people may not have positive outlooks on me. Right? Even if they've not interacted with me. It's people who they're around, okay? There'll be some people I may have had problems or encounters with who are just so happen to be connected and friends with another individual. And that other individual who may have not experienced it or been in the presence of me believes in that person they're friends with. So that those person's problems become their problems. So then they equally dislike an individual. But at the end of the day, only one of the two have actually experienced a certain thing with that individual, such as me. The other person hasn't experienced it themselves, but they're just going along with what another person is saying. So it's very biased that you may be friends with someone, you might get on very well with someone, but it doesn't mean to say that you have to be emotionally connected to them and nod your head to everything like a yes man and a yes woman. And we've seen that in the Dylan Rounds community. There's a lot of yes man, yes women out there, okay? They don't see it for themselves. They don't experience it for themselves. They just take everything on board as a yes based off what one person has claimed. And that can be very damaging and disruptive, of course. You look at Salty Pancakes, you look at Kathy and Axel, those false claims made about Warlight Ref, very serious. If people, thankfully not then, but if people were dumb enough to fall for that, and they were good friends with those type of individuals, they would probably say yes and believe in it without even experiencing it themselves, right? Whilst it's not happened there, it's happened here in other ways, okay? So I don't know why Kaylee has changed in behaviour towards me. I don't even know why Fumblenuts has a problem with me. But the sub-factor as to why there could be a correlation is Polish girl in Vegas, just because she gets on well with those type of people. And it's mainly Polish girl that has had a problem with me in recent time with her entitled post of demanding answers for things. As I said, one and done video explaining all that back then, doesn't need to be done again. But what I did predict what would follow afterwards is exactly what happened. Okay, so I got that right at least. So I'm thinking that the odd person has had a supposed false negative run-in and a misunderstanding with me. They throw the toys out the pram. The little buddy boys and bitch boys have gathered together because they're friends. They've believed in what that one person has said, even though it's false, a false claim. And then they're all collectively negative towards one. That's how it appears to be without experiencing it themselves. They will believe in a lie rather than an actual experience or witnessing it themselves. That says a lot there about those people. Okay? So, sleeper cell. Bit of a random response here. Okay, sleeper cell. I'm aware you supposedly had run-ins with various different people with time, and it's been all over the place. Sleeper cell hasn't caused me any problems from what I'm aware of, just making that as an observation, okay? There was supposedly a misunderstanding in the past, but I can't remember how that even started. I don't know if you remember sleeper cell. Was it to do with Salty Pancakes? Was it to do with someone else? And you thought that I had a problem with you. It was resolved, and I know. It was just a weird time, whatever was going on. But the reason why I want to bring that up just very briefly, sleeper cell, it was the perfect example of some kind of weird misunderstanding or some weird Chinese whispers from elsewhere, in which once it became apparent and clear to my nature, it was simply cleared up like that, and it was all under control, wasn't it? Besides that, okay, one thing that I have noticed, sleeper cell, and I know you mention it here and there as like a summary, but you got the Jim Terry 2.0. So you had Jim Terry, obvious person, stood out, no limits, is what it is. Might not be good, might be bad, but it's pretty clear and obvious. Unless you're vulnerable and manipulated by the presence, let's just say. If you're an outsider, it's pretty clear and obvious as to what it is, okay? Bad influence or not, it's clear. That's what's most important, okay? The Jim Terry 2.0, which sleeper cell labels, in case anyone wants to wonder what these key terms and phrases are, Jim Terry 2.0 basically means the collective group of Twin Mamas community, Bob Farrell's community, and Fumblenuts, and the audience members that come with it. Do I think that it's a Jim Terry 2.0? I wouldn't directly say yes, but in terms of how I've outlined this video, the hypocrisy, the two-faced nature in supporting something but causing damage elsewhere, and being a bit two-faced in the name of Dylan Rounds, you could possibly say how I described this video describes Jim Terry 2.0 community, right? Not directly coming from my word, from my mouth though. But I guess if you work around it based off how I describe this and that, maybe it does equal that description and term. I'm not going to personally directly say it myself, because I don't think it'll cause any positive outcome. It might be worse than, you know, focus on Dylan Rounds. If that makes sense, sleeper cell. But in terms of people grouping together, breaking away, reforming with time, just because you break away like those people have done, and just because they've all had different experiences and they can understand each other, and there's a better understanding, so they'll bond well together better than ever before, that doesn't always work. Because you've seen internal conflict, you've seen communication breakdowns within, you've seen the fractured community and state of things and ongoing and more to come for sure. And you've seen it, the outwards behaviour, outwards attitude and outlook on others that have covered Dylan Rounds, such as me. They don't have understanding, right? All these people over that way, no, not all these people. Most of these people, creators or audience members, outsiders that have come on over, that are over in that direction, if they're labelled as Jim Terry 2.0 or not, regardless, these people may have criminal histories, mugshots or substance abuse, or they may have issues in real life, they may have done bad things here and there, or they just simply make mistakes in supporting the wrong person and the wrong people at the wrong time, whilst they themselves care about a case but they support someone that's harming the case. Do they learn from their mistakes? No. They just make more mistakes with time in different ways. That's not a good look. They claim to have changed, to become a better person, and they're doing good in this world, or they're doing good in a community, but elsewhere they're doing the opposite, right? Going against themselves. They may have been through a lot. They may be going through a lot. But does understanding come with that? Does empathy come with that? With how they may look at somebody else out there going through something similar? Even if there is like factors to relate to, they just don't share that understanding. They dismiss it. Right? Ignorant behaviour. Disappointing, isn't it? As said, why does this matter? This personal experience of mine, being on the receiving end of it, why does it matter? Because it's just that cherry on the top which highlights the sheer hypocrisy of these people and the sheer ignorance of others that don't bother to actually watch my videos and take it in to understand what the actual themes are about Dylan Rounds and other people out there and the balance behind it. Selective hearing leads to misunderstanding, which leads to conflict and false statements made, which ultimately circles back to them acting as a prat. And that's it. Okay? Do I have to defend myself here? Probably not. Many people in the chat right now, if they're still here, may be thinking, Raf, don't explain yourself, don't say anything, just do what you do best. That's it. It just so happens that what I do best is this as well. Because before Kenny Veach, before Dylan Rounds, at the age of 14 years old and onwards, what I'm doing here is what I was doing back then. And I can guarantee you that with absolute confidence, because I know what I did back then and what I said and what I talked about and analysed. The only difference between then and now, I'm using a bit more advanced vocabulary, some key words and terms, and I have an audience now compared to back then when I didn't. That's the only difference, okay? So I know what I'm doing, it's under control, I've done this before, it's no different, okay? It's just that now there's a direct response to something, okay? That's the only difference. But on top of that, now, there's a takeaway point from these videos. How to adapt, how to improve, what not to do, what to do, right? In the face of conflict, resistance and drama. Specifically this video though is more to acknowledge and be aware that those that may appear very positive with their positive messengers and all about advocacy and spreading awareness in other ways, just because they do all that doesn't mean to say that they're good individuals and that they've got a clean past, because quite a few of them don't. And because when it comes to true crime, A lot of ex-criminals seem to get involved with true crime, which is a bit ironic, right? But on top of it all, that the understanding is just because someone's gone through a lot doesn't make them a really bad person in the future, but at the same time it won't make them a very good person in the future if they haven't learned from their mistakes and they haven't developed an understanding and empathy of others in the future going through the same thing, right? If you've been through bad times, you've experienced suffering, pain, or you're the one to have caused it in the first place, but you have learnt from that, in time, in the future, if you came across somebody else who is almost like a younger self of you, you should show a greater level of care, understanding, and a form of patience, possibly, right? The equivalent of me, basically, okay? In the past, when I was playing on PC and I was with a group of people, strangers, they were like, you know what? If you don't feel comfortable yet, you don't have to chat. You don't have to use the mic. You can keep quiet. You can listen to us speak. And once you're more comfortable, you can start talking if you want. Very calm, understanding. That was fine. So that in the future, when I came across other people who may have been like, I don't really feel comfortable or confident, or I don't want to call you, I don't want to do voice chat, I don't want you to hear my voice yet. Okay, no rush. No rush. Just like with how people have treated me here. People are patient, right? If I don't quite understand what they know, they're patient, and then I eventually catch up. If at any point those people are like, sorry, Raf, couldn't catch your video. I've been really busy. I'll make it up. I'll watch it as soon as possible. Sorry, Raf, wasn't able to send a super chat immediately. Or, oh, I'm sorry, I've been busy doing stuff. I've not responded back to your question. And people have been apologetic. And my response is, don't worry. Take your time. Do what you can. That's it. If people have been patient towards me, I should try and be patient towards others. Right? As simple as that. If people have understood a person's shyness or lack of confidence, it should be the other way, vice versa too, with a different situation or person. As said, the examples that I'm giving aren't exactly groundbreaking, and they don't follow a negative tone, but it at least follows that if you're going to be treated a certain way, if you're in a positive way, if you're able to replicate that with another person out there, it continues a positive cycle and chain. It doesn't have to be outgoing. It doesn't have to be above and beyond. It could be very simple, just like basic positivity. It's basic, but it's genuine and it's clear. Simple as, right? Kind of like how if some people were like, oh, I'll do a response video to this, or I'll do my own coverage, but I don't want to show my face. I don't want to show my voice because I don't feel comfortable doing that. And I'm like, that's fine. No problems there. Because I don't demand, I don't expect people to be confident, simply because I myself can be quiet and keep to myself. Simple as. And, you know, people will do that thing. Oh, just because this person's muscular, just because this person's very strong and built and strong-minded, that they're instantly confident. No, far from it. You know, you got to understand the reality of factors, such as right now, right here. What am I doing? Yes, I'm talking. I might have a good flow. I might be very clear and I know what I'm talking about and there's no disruption or anything like that. Oh, very confident. Just remember, I'm talking to an object, the camera. I'm not talking to a real life audience of people, because if I was, I think things would be a lot different. So it's about understanding the reality of things and the factors in between. That, oh, just because a person can do this, don't mean that they can do that. You got to understand that in between, there are factors which may make something a bit easier to do or easier to respond back to, right? Kind of like the difference between a live response to drama, like a panel, a call-in or a phone call in real life, online, whatever. That's vastly different than a response, i.e. in a comment or email. In a comment email, you got time to think on what you're going to say and how you're going to respond. You can create a draft, you can edit, you can add to it, you can leave it another day. When it's in the moment and you're talking to someone, maybe it's harder to think of stuff. Maybe you don't remember everything on the spot. Your comeback lines, your responses, your counterpoints, you might not be able to do that on the spot. Maybe you're not as good with dealing with conflict and stuff like that when it's direct and face-to-face, but when it's behind the scenes, not to be done in a cowardly way, but when you got the time, focus, and more comfort in being able to think of things to say, it's more refined. It varies, right? Just like how a person talks in front of a camera, you compare that to a person that talks in front of an audience. It could be miles apart in difference. So by measuring the level of confidence within someone might not always be exactly as what it seems, okay? Just like in other different aspects. So because of, like on that basis, I wouldn't expect other people to be very outgoing or confident just like that, right? Because in certain ways, if you're not like that yourself, then you shouldn't expect other people to be like that, because it's kind of like unrealistic expectations, or you're being a bit too demanding considering you yourself and what you provide, right? What would be another example? I mean, what would be, I don't know. I won't use a personal example, I'll use a separate one. You get some people out there, like when you see the videos on YouTube, the hypocrisy of people or the high demands of people, and they're like, actually, I want a guy that's 6'5" and, you know, massive in size all over. What do they provide to the table? Flat as a pancake. Are they in any position to have such high demands when they themselves aren't? Just be kind of like a level of understanding and kind of like a level of balance. Now, maybe that example was a bit too hard hitting, but, you know, I'm just trying to think of examples on the spot. It's not always easy to do so. But anyway, linking back to these bad role models, these bad individuals, these disappointing humans, those that are listed today and further afar and more in the background, basically, they've got their experience, but they haven't applied it, they haven't adapted, and they don't show a level of understanding or care outwards elsewhere. That their biased thoughts and two-faced nature blinds them from the supposed truth. They claim that they're doing good, but in fact elsewhere, they're undoing that good, and they don't come across in a good light. Okay, these are all valid observations based off what I've seen, what I've witnessed from 2022 till this day. Maybe I do keep quiet, but there is time to think and time to piece it all together, and that's exactly what I've done. A lot of people, where they've come from, forget where they've come from. They need to know their place and their past mistakes, because if not, history can repeat itself. They think they're squeaky clean, they think they're a better human, but let's look back at what they've done. And it won't take long to look back at what they've done or where they've come from, okay? You know, I can't list everybody's name here and there because it takes too much time, but you get the overall idea, okay? And the importance of this, why it's important to the Dylan Rounds case is, isn't it worrying to know that you got people like this in the case and maybe in contact with the family? Are the family aware of the past behaviour by these people and who they once supported? Because the family, at least, detest Jim Terry and can't stand salty pancakes. That Candice Cooley hates Ty Corbyn and Lance Kelly. But a range of these community members and stuff who may be in contact or may get on okay with Candice Cooley Justin Rounds, and yet they've also been to those places which Candice Cooley Justin Rounds dislike. Are they aware of that? As for me, I stay here because I do my channel, my videos. I don't have time to be on panels, channels, call-ins and collabs like that. I'm doing my own thing. So because I'm not aligning myself with any darkness directly, you know, it is why it is here. But for many out there, who they align with or who they have done, are the family of Dylan Rounds aware of who they're dealing with, right? You think the damage that can be caused or has already been caused unknowingly by these people directly or indirectly. And as said, the counterpoint is, oh, well, these people are righting their wrongs and being a better person now. You may think you're a better person now. I haven't seen it though. I've seen the complete opposite. Simple as. So the general theme of today is there are bad role models in the Dylan Rounds case in general. The theme of missing people, missing cases, the distribution of information and the confusion between facts and ideas and all that language and bullshittery. Okay. So once again, another valid observation, a slight response, but most important, a new theme talked about here. That should be the key takeaway point from this video, and I hope people pick up on it. The key takeaway point is the theme of role models and the bad influence of them and how it can harm things and harm people unknowingly of what's going on. Okay? We've looked at drama and conflict, how this happens and how that happens. Bad role models can be a part of that, but separately, they can be the cause of other problems too. And it's the first time I've talked about it on my channel. So with that all being said and done, hopefully you watched this full video. If you didn't, I really, really strongly advise you to watch it from start to finish, because if you don't, there may be misunderstandings and we don't want that, okay? So my name's Warlight Ref, another analysis done. When there's the right place and the right time and there's no disruption around, no noise next door, I will do the focus map analysis of Don Hatley's place. I've updated the project, added some extra points and markers so it will help and make it easier to understand when we do that video. So I appreciate people's patience. And I also acknowledge the people that are on my channel who may go elsewhere and who are in a difficult position to speak out or to defend something, because they may get attacked, they may be worse off, they may be trapped, whatever it may be. I understand that, that's fine. It is what it is, no pressure. So we'll leave it there for now. Thanks for watching, goodbye and good night.